The rain hammered against the windows of Bennett Medical Center as 7-year-old Amara clutched her worn backpack tighter. Inside were her most precious possessions: a stuffed elephant with one missing eye, 3 toy cars with chipped paint, a broken doll with tangled hair, and 2 coloring books with most pages already filled. Her small hands shook as she approached the reception desk, water dripping from her soaked pink jacket onto the pristine marble floor. "Please, I need to see the doctor," she whispered to the receptionist, her voice barely audible over the storm outside. "My mommy is very sick and I have money to pay." The receptionist, Mrs. Thompson, looked down at the small child with concern. "Sweetheart, where are your parents? You shouldn't be here alone." Amara's brown eyes filled with tears as she unzipped her backpack. One by one she carefully placed her toys on the counter. "This is my payment. These are worth a lot. Please, can the doctor fix my mommy?" The sight of the innocent child trying to trade her toys for medical care sent shockwaves through the busy waiting room. Patients stopped their conversations, nurses paused their work, and even the security guard felt his heart break. This was not just any medical center, this was the most expensive private practice in the city, where treatments cost more than most people earned in a year. Dr. Harrison Bennett, a renowned oncologist and the billionaire owner of the medical center, had been walking through the lobby when he noticed the commotion. At 42, he was known for his brilliant mind, his expensive suits, and his somewhat cold demeanor with patients. Money had never been an object in his life, and he rarely dealt with people who couldn't afford his services. But something about the small girl arranging her toys so carefully on the counter stopped him in his tracks. He had seen desperate families before, but never a child trying to negotiate with toys. The pure innocence and love in her actions hit him like a physical blow. "What seems to be the problem here?" Dr. Bennett asked, his usually stern voice softening as he approached the counter. Amara looked up at the tall man in the expensive suit. Despite her fear, she stood straighter and spoke with the determination only a child could muster. "Are you the doctor? My mommy has cancer and she says we can't afford to make her better. But I have these." She gestured to her toys. "They're really special. This elephant was my daddy's before he went to heaven, and these cars go really fast and my doll can dance if you wind her up." Dr. Bennett knelt down to Amara's eye level, something he had never done for any patient before. Looking into her hopeful face, he felt something shift inside his chest. "Tell me about your mommy, Amara. What's her name?" "Kiana Johnson. She cleans offices at night and works at the diner during the day, but she's been too sick to work much. She thinks I don't know, but I heard her crying in the bathroom. She said the cancer is getting worse and we don't have money for the good medicine." Amara's voice cracked, but she continued bravely. "I saved all my best toys because I love my mommy more than anything." The entire lobby had gone silent. Dr. Bennett felt something he hadn't experienced in years. His heart breaking for someone else's pain. This child was offering everything she had, everything that mattered to her for her mother's life. Have you ever witnessed love so pure that it changes everything? What would you do if you saw a child offering their most treasured possessions to save their parent? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the power of love and kindness. "Amara," Dr. Bennett said gently, "your toys are very precious, but you know what? I think we can help your mommy without you having to give them up. Would you like that?" The little girl's eyes widened with hope so bright it seemed to light up the entire lobby. "Really? You'll help her? Even though we don't have regular money?" "Yes, sweetheart. We'll help her. In fact, I want to meet your mommy right now. Can you take me to her?" As Amara carefully packed her toys back into her backpack, her hands trembling with excitement, Dr. Bennett made a decision that would change all their lives forever. He didn't know it yet, but this little girl had just taught him something about love and sacrifice that all his years of medical training and wealth had never shown him. The rain continued to pound the windows, but inside the medical center, something beautiful was beginning to bloom. A connection between 3 souls that would prove that sometimes the most valuable payments come not in money, but in the pure love of a child's heart. 20 minutes later, Dr. Bennett followed Amara through the narrow hallways of Riverside Apartments, a building that had seen better days decades ago. The contrast between his luxury medical center and this place was stark, but he found himself noticing things he never paid attention to before. The way neighbors greeted Amara warmly despite their own struggles, the children's drawings taped to apartment doors, the sense of community that existed despite the poverty. "Mommy, I brought help," Amara called out as she opened the door to apartment 2B. Kiana Johnson was lying on a worn couch, covered by a thin blanket that had been washed so many times it was nearly transparent. At 28, she had once been vibrant and full of dreams, but months of battling cancer while working multiple jobs had taken their toll. Her dark skin had lost its glow, and her once bright eyes were dulled by pain and exhaustion. When she saw the well-dressed stranger behind her daughter, panic flashed across her face. "Amara, what did you do? Who is this man?" "Mom, this is Dr. Bennett. He's going to help you get better." Amara rushed to her mother's side, her backpack still clutched tightly. Kiana struggled to sit up, her pride fighting against her weakness. "Sir, I don't know what my daughter told you, but we can't afford any private doctors. There must be some mistake." Dr. Bennett had treated thousands of patients, but something about Kiana's dignity in the face of such hardship moved him deeply. Here was a woman who was clearly suffering, yet her first concern was that she might be accepting something she couldn't pay for. "Mrs. Johnson, there's no mistake. Your daughter came to my clinic today with a very generous offer to pay for your treatment." He glanced meaningfully at Amara's backpack. "After speaking with her, I've decided that I want to help. No payment required." Kiana's eyes filled with tears of both gratitude and shame. "I can't accept charity. I've always worked for everything we have. Even if it's not much, it's honest." Dr. Bennett sat down on the small chair across from the couch, making himself less imposing. "Mrs. Johnson, may I ask about your medical history? What type of cancer are you fighting?" "Stage 3 breast cancer. I've been getting treatment at the county hospital, but the doctors there say I need a more aggressive therapy that's not covered by my insurance. They estimated it would cost about $200,000. She laughed bitterly. "I might as well need $2 million. It's impossible either way." "What if I told you that it's not impossible?" Dr. Bennett asked quietly. "What if I told you that I could provide that treatment, and that your only job would be to focus on getting better for Amara?" "Why would you do that? You don't even know us." Dr. Bennett looked at Amara, who was listening intently while carefully arranging her toys on the coffee table. "Your daughter taught me something today about what real wealth looks like. She was willing to give up everything that mattered to her to save your life. That kind of love is worth more than all the money I've ever made." Kiana reached out and pulled Amara close, tears streaming down her face. "Baby, what did you do?" "I took my toys to pay the doctor, Mommy. But he says he'll help you anyway and I can keep them too." Amara looked confused by her mother's tears. "Isn't that good news?" "It's the best news, sweetheart." Kiana looked back at Dr. Bennett, her voice shaking. "Are you serious? You would really help us?" "More serious than I've ever been about anything. But I need you to promise me something, Mrs. Johnson. Promise me that you'll fight as hard as Amara fought for you today. Promise me you won't give up." "I promise. For her, I'll fight forever." Dr. Bennett stood up, already mentally arranging the best possible care team. "Good. We start tomorrow. I'll have my assistant arrange transportation for you both. We're going to need to run some tests first, but I want you to know that you're going to receive the best possible treatment." As he prepared to leave, Amara ran up to him and hugged his legs tightly. "Thank you for helping my mommy. You're like a superhero but with a stethoscope instead of a cape." Dr. Bennett found himself smiling more genuinely than he had in years. "You're the real superhero, Amara. You saved your mommy today with nothing but love." Walking back to his car, Dr. Bennett realized that in all his years of practicing medicine, he had somehow forgotten the most important part. The healing wasn't just about the medicine or the technology. It was about hope, love, and the connections between people that make life worth fighting for. Tonight, 3 lives had changed forever. And this was only the beginning. The next morning arrived bright and early at Bennett Medical Center, but it felt different somehow. Dr. Bennett had barely slept, his mind racing with treatment plans and possibilities for Kiana's case. He had called in favors from colleagues across the country, arranged for the best equipment to be made available, and even had his personal assistant, Christine, coordinate a car service to bring Kiana and Amara to the clinic. When they arrived, Kiana was clearly overwhelmed by the opulent surroundings. The marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and expensive artwork made her feel small and out of place. She wore her best dress, a simple blue sundress that had been carefully mended in several places, and held Amara's hand tightly. "Mommy, this place is like a palace," Amara whispered, her eyes wide with wonder as she looked around the lobby. Dr. Bennett greeted them personally, something that shocked his staff who were used to his usual professional distance. "Good morning, ladies. Are you ready to begin this journey?" "Dr. Bennett, I need to be honest with you," Kiana said, her voice trembling slightly. "I spent all night thinking about this and I can't accept such generosity without giving something back. I know my daughter's toys aren't real payment, but maybe I could work for you? Clean your offices, organize files, anything?" I'm a hard worker and I learn fast. Dr. Bennett was touched by her determination to maintain her dignity. Mrs. Johnson, right now your only job is to get well. But if it makes you feel better once you're healthy, we can discuss you joining our team in some capacity. Deal? Kiana's relief was visible. Deal. Thank you for understanding. The first round of tests took most of the morning. While Kiana underwent scans and blood work, Amara sat in the children's waiting area that Dr. Bennett had hastily arranged to be set up. She colored in her books and played quietly with her toys, charming every staff member who passed by. Dr. Patricia Williams, the lead oncology nurse, found herself drawn to the little girl's cheerful spirit. What are you drawing, sweetheart? It's my mommy, but when she's all better. See? She's smiling and her hair is pretty again, and we're at the park having a picnic. Amara held up her drawing proudly. That's beautiful. You really love your mommy, don't you? More than all the stars in the sky. That's what she tells me, and that's how much I love her back. When the test results came in, Dr. Bennett reviewed them with his team. The cancer had indeed progressed, but it wasn't too late for treatment. With the right combination of chemotherapy, radiation, and a new immunotherapy treatment, Kiana had an excellent chance of full recovery. He called Kiana into his office to discuss the results, with Amara by her side as always. The good news is that we caught this at a point where treatment can be very effective, Dr. Bennett explained, showing them the scans. The challenging news is that it's going to require an intensive treatment schedule over the next 6 months. What does that mean exactly? Kiana asked. It means 3 days a week here for chemotherapy, daily radiation for 7 weeks, and then the immunotherapy treatments monthly for a year after that. You'll need to focus entirely on getting better, which means you won't be able to work during active treatment. Kiana's face fell. But if I can't work, how will we pay rent? How will I feed Amara? The treatment is one thing, but we still need to live. Dr. Bennett had anticipated this concern. I've been thinking about that. My foundation has a program for families in situations like yours. We can arrange temporary housing closer to the hospital, and there's a living stipend to cover your basic needs during treatment. Dr. Bennett, that's too much. I can't accept all of this. Amara looked up at her mother with concern. Mommy, remember what you always tell me? When someone wants to help because they care, we say thank you and we help someone else when we can. Both adults looked at the wise little girl in amazement. She's right, Dr. Bennett said softly. Amara, you're absolutely right. Sometimes we have to accept help so we can help others later. Kiana took a deep breath, looking at her daughter's hopeful face. Okay. We accept. Thank you, Dr. Bennett. I promise you won't regret this kindness. What would you do if a stranger offered to completely change your life? How do you think this family story will unfold? Subscribe and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your support means the world to these heartwarming stories. I already know I won't regret it, Dr. Bennett replied. You two have already changed my life more than you realize. As they left the office that day to prepare for the move to temporary housing, Dr. Bennett watched them through his window. Amara was skipping alongside her mother, chattering excitedly about all the good things that were going to happen. Kiana walked with more hope in her step than she'd had in months. For the first time in his career, Dr. Bennett realized he was about to embark on treating a patient not just with medicine, but with every resource at his disposal. And somehow he knew that this case would teach him more about healing than any medical journal ever could. 2 weeks later, Kiana and Amara had settled into their new temporary home, a comfortable 2-bedroom apartment just 5 minutes from Bennett Medical Center. Dr. Bennett had arranged for it to be furnished with everything they needed, from a fully stocked kitchen to a study area for Amara complete with books and art supplies. The first day of chemotherapy arrived on a Monday morning. Kiana was nervous, having heard horror stories about the side effects, but she was determined to stay positive for Amara's sake. Good morning, beautiful ladies, Dr. Bennett greeted them as they entered the treatment center. He had made it a point to personally oversee Kiana's care, something that surprised his staff but delighted his patients. The chemotherapy suite was unlike anything Kiana had expected. Instead of the sterile, scary environment she had imagined, it was warm and comfortable, with large windows, soft recliners, and even a play area where Amara could stay nearby during treatments. Now, Mrs. Johnson, I want you to understand that everyone reacts differently to treatment, Dr. Bennett explained as the nurses prepared the floor. Some people feel tired, some people feel sick, and some people feel almost normal. We're going to monitor you closely and adjust anything that needs adjusting. Amara had brought her coloring books and toys, setting up a little station next to her mother's chair. Mommy, I'm going to draw pictures of all the medicine fighting the bad cells. They look like little soldiers with swords. Kiana laughed, the first real laugh Dr. Bennett had heard from her. That sounds perfect, baby. Draw them winning the battle. As the treatment progressed, Dr. Bennett found himself stopping by more frequently than necessary. He told himself it was to monitor Kiana's response to the medication, but in truth he was drawn to their positive energy. Amara had a gift for making everyone around her smile, and Kiana's quiet strength in the face of such challenges impressed him daily. Dr. Bennett, can I ask you something? Amara said during the second week of treatment. Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind? Do you have a family? Like a wife and kids? The question caught him off guard. No, I don't. I've been so focused on work that I never really made time for that. That's sad. Families are the best part of everything. Maybe after my mommy gets better, you could have dinner with us sometimes? Mommy makes really good spaghetti, even if we used to only afford the cheap kind. Dr. Bennett felt a warmth spread through his chest that he hadn't experienced since childhood. I would like that very much, Amara. Kiana, who had been listening while receiving her treatment, smiled softly. You're always welcome at our table, Dr. Bennett. It's the least we can offer after everything you've done. Harrison, he said quietly. Please call me Harrison. As the weeks progressed, something beautiful began to happen. Kiana's response to treatment was better than anyone had hoped. Her energy was returning, her color was improving, and most importantly, the latest scans showed the tumors shrinking significantly. But beyond the medical success, relationships were forming that none of them had expected. Dr. Bennett found himself looking forward to treatment days, not just to monitor Kiana's progress, but to see Amara's latest drawings and hear about her adventures in the children's area of the hospital. Look, Harrison. Amara had started calling him by his first name after he insisted. I made this for you. She handed him a carefully drawn picture of the three of them standing outside the medical center, with a big sun shining overhead and the words, "Thank you for saving my mommy," written in crayon across the top. Dr. Bennett looked at the drawing for a long moment, feeling emotions he had kept buried for years. This is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me, Amara. I'm going to frame it and put it in my office. Really? In your fancy office with all the diplomas? Right in the center where everyone can see it. Kiana watched this exchange with growing affection for the man who had saved not just her life, but given her daughter a father figure she had never had. Her own father had left when she was young, and Amara's father had died in a car accident when she was just 2. Watching Harrison's gentle interactions with her daughter filled a space in her heart she hadn't realized was empty. Harrison, Kiana said as they prepared to leave after the 4th week of treatment, I want you to know that what you're giving us goes far beyond medical care. You're giving us hope, dignity, and... She paused, searching for the right words. You're giving Amara something I could never provide alone. A male role model who shows her how good men treat the people they care about. Dr. Bennett felt his throat tighten with emotion. Kiana, you and Amara have given me something too. You've reminded me why I became a doctor in the first place. It wasn't for the money or the prestige. It was to help people, to make a difference in lives that matter. As they walked to the parking lot together, Amara skipping between the two adults, all three of them felt something that had been missing from their lives, the warmth of family. They didn't know it yet, but they were falling in love, not just romantically but as a unit, as people who belonged together. The treatment was working on more than just Kiana's cancer. It was healing 3 hearts that had been lonely for far too long. By the 6th week of treatment, a routine had developed that felt surprisingly natural. Harrison would personally check on Kiana's progress each treatment day, often bringing coffee for her and a small gift for Amara. A new coloring book, a puzzle, or sometimes just a piece of candy that made the little girl's face light up with joy. You're spoiling her, Kiana said one morning as Amara excitedly unwrapped a set of colored pencils that were far nicer than anything she'd ever owned. She deserves to be spoiled, Harrison replied, watching Amara test each color carefully. When's the last time someone spoiled you, Kiana? The question caught her off guard. I don't really think about things like that. Being a single mom, especially with our situation, you learn to focus on needs rather than wants. But what do you want? Harrison asked gently. Not for Amara, not for your recovery, but for you. What would make Kiana Johnson happy? Kiana was quiet for a long moment, the question stirring feelings she had buried under years of survival and responsibility. I used to want to finish college. I was studying to be a teacher before Amara's father died. After that, it was all about working and keeping us afloat. Dreams seemed like luxuries I couldn't afford. What subject did you want to teach? Elementary education. I love working with kids, helping them discover that learning can be fun. I used to volunteer at Amara's school before I got too sick. Her eyes brightened with the memory. There's something magical about that moment when a child suddenly understands something they've been struggling with. Harrison nodded thoughtfully. You'd be an amazing teacher. I can see it in how you interact with Amara, how patient and encouraging you are. Their conversation was interrupted by Amara running over with her latest creation. Look, I drew our whole family. Both adults looked at the drawing with surprise. There were 3 figures, a woman labeled Mommy, a little girl labeled Me, and a tall man in a white coat labeled Daddy Harrison. Kiana's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Amara, sweetheart, Harrison isn't your daddy. But Harrison knelt down to Amara's level, his voice gentle. You know what, Amara? I'm honored that you drew me in your family picture. Even if I'm not your daddy, I care about you and your mommy very much. Do you love us? Amara asked with the direct honesty only children possess. The question hung in the air like a soap bubble, fragile and beautiful. Harrison looked at this little girl who had walked into his life and changed everything, then at her mother who had shown him what real courage looked like. Yes, he said simply. I do love you both. Kiana felt tears spring to her eyes. Not from sadness but from a happiness so intense it almost hurt. When had anyone last said they loved her? When had anyone looked at her the way Harrison was looking at her now? We love you too, Amara declared matter-of-factly. Right, Mommy? Kiana met Harrison's eyes and saw something there that made her heart race. Yes, baby. We do. The moment was tender and perfect, and both adults realized they had crossed a line from doctor-patient relationship to something much deeper and more meaningful. Later that afternoon, while Amara was napping in the children's area, Harrison and Kiana had their first real conversation alone. I need to be honest with you about something, Kiana said, her hands nervously smoothing her skirt. I'm scared. About the treatment? The latest scans show you're responding beautifully. Not about the cancer. I'm scared about this. She gestured between them. About how I'm feeling about you. About how Amara is getting attached. What happens when the treatment is over? Do we go back to our old life and pretend this never happened? Harrison reached out and took her hand, his thumb gently stroking her knuckles. What if we didn't have to go back? What if this is our new beginning? Harrison, you're a billionaire doctor. I clean offices for a living. We live in completely different worlds. Do we? Because from where I'm sitting, we both love the same little girl. We both value family, kindness, and taking care of people. We both want to make the world a better place. That sounds like the same world to me. Kiana looked into his eyes and saw sincerity there that took her breath away. You really mean that? I've never meant anything more in my life. Kiana, you and Amara have brought joy and purpose to my life that I didn't even know I was missing. I don't want to go back to the empty existence I had before you walked into my world. What are you saying exactly? I'm saying that I want to be part of your family, officially. I want to be there for Amara's school plays and birthday parties. I want to support your dreams of becoming a teacher. I want to build a life together if you'll have me. Kiana felt like she was floating. Could this really be happening? Could the man who had saved her life also be offering to share it? Are you sure? Really, truly sure? Because Amara has already lost one father, and I can't bear the thought of her being hurt again. I promise you, Kiana Johnson, that I will never willingly leave you or Amara. You two are the best thing that's ever happened to me. As they sat there in the quiet treatment room, holding hands and sharing dreams they had barely dared to whisper, both of them knew that something extraordinary was happening. Love had found them in the most unexpected place, grown from the most desperate circumstances, and now it was blooming into something beautiful and lasting. Word of Dr. Bennett's extraordinary kindness began to spread throughout the hospital, though Harrison tried to keep the details private. He had never been one to seek attention for his charitable acts, but something about Kiana and Amara's story touched everyone who heard it. Dr. Bennett, you have a visitor, his assistant Christine announced one Thursday morning. Harrison looked up from his paperwork to see a familiar small figure standing in his doorway. Amara was holding a wrapped package and wearing her biggest smile. What are you doing here, sweetheart? Where's your mother? She's getting her blood checked with Nurse Patricia. I wanted to give you this before I forgot. Amara carefully placed the package on his desk. Harrison opened it to find a small photo frame with a picture of the 3 of them from the previous week, taken by one of the nurses during a particularly good treatment day. But what made his breath catch was the handwritten note tucked behind the photo. Dear Harrison, he read aloud, thank you for being the best not really daddy a girl could ask for. Love, Amara. P.S. Mommy helped me spell the hard words. Do you like it? Amara asked anxiously. I love it more than anything, Harrison said, placing the frame prominently on his desk next to his medical diplomas. It's perfect. What Amara didn't know was that Harrison had been busy with his own acts of kindness. He had quietly arranged for Amara to attend one of the city's best private schools, with all expenses covered through a scholarship he had personally funded. He had also been working with the college to help Kiana complete her education degree through a flexible program that would work around her treatment schedule. But perhaps most importantly, he had been making changes to his medical practice. Inspired by Kiana and Amara's story, Harrison had established a new program called Hope Fund that would help other families facing similar situations. For every wealthy patient he treated, a portion of the proceeds would go toward providing free care for families in need. "Harrison, we need to talk," Kiana said that afternoon as her treatment concluded. Her tone was serious and Harrison felt a moment of panic. "Is everything okay? Are you feeling all right?" "I'm feeling better than I have in months. But I found out about the school you arranged for Amara, and the college program you set up for me. Harrison, you can't keep doing things like this without talking to us first." Harrison's face fell. "I'm sorry. I thought it would make you happy. I know how much your education means to you, and Amara deserves the best opportunities. It does make me happy. It makes me so happy I cried for an hour when the school called. But that's not the point." Kiana sat down across from his desk, her expression gentle but firm. "We're going to be a family, really be a family. We need to make decisions together. Big decisions like where our daughter goes to school and how I finish my education." Harrison realized she was right, and more importantly, he realized she had said, "our daughter." "You're absolutely right. I got carried away with wanting to fix everything to make your lives perfect. I should have talked to you first. I love that you want to take care of us. But I need to be your partner in this, not just someone you rescue. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. And Kiana? Did you just call Amara our daughter?" A soft smile spread across her face. "I did. Is that okay with you?" "It's more than okay. It's everything I've been hoping for." Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Williams knocking on the office door. "Sorry to interrupt, but Harrison, I wanted to update you on Mrs. Johnson's latest test results." "Please come in. And Patricia, remember it's Kiana now." Dr. Williams smiled at the informal atmosphere that had developed around this case. In all her years working with Harrison, she had never seen him so personally invested in a patient's well-being. "Well, Kiana, I have wonderful news. Your response to treatment has exceeded all our expectations. The tumors have shrunk by 78%, and your blood work shows that your body is tolerating everything beautifully." Kiana felt tears of relief and joy streaming down her face. "Does this mean?" "It means you're going to be just fine. We'll continue with the planned treatment schedule, but barring any unexpected complications, you're looking at a full recovery." Harrison found himself having to sit down, overwhelmed by the relief flooding through him. He had been confident in the treatment plan, but hearing the official confirmation made him realize just how terrified he had been of losing Kiana. "There's something else," Dr. Williams continued. "Harrison, the staff has been talking and we want you to know how inspired we are by what you've done here. Several of us want to contribute to your Hope Fund. We've seen how this kind of comprehensive care can transform lives, and we want to be part of making it available to more families." "Patricia, that's incredible. Thank you. Actually, there's more. The story has inspired some of our other patients too. Mrs. Richardson, the woman whose husband owns Richardson Industries, heard about Kiana and Amara. She wants to make a substantial donation to the fund." Harrison looked at Kiana, whose eyes were shining with amazement. "Do you realize what's happening here?" he asked her. "Your courage and Amara's love are inspiring other people to help families they've never even met." "It's not just us," Kiana replied. "It's what you started. You showed everyone that healing is about more than just medicine. It's about treating people with dignity and love." As Dr. Williams left them alone, Harrison and Kiana sat in comfortable silence, both absorbing the magnitude of the good that was spreading from their unlikely love story. "Harrison," Kiana said softly. "Yes. I think we're going to need to plan a celebration dinner. All three of us together as a family." "I know just the place," Harrison replied, pulling her into his arms. "But first, let's go tell Amara the good news about your test results." As they walked hand in hand toward the children's area, both of them felt the weight of gratitude for the journey that had brought them together. What had started as a desperate child's attempt to save her mother had blossomed into a love story that was changing not just their lives, but the lives of everyone around them. The news of Kiana's remarkable recovery spread through Bennett Medical Center like wildfire, but it was the story behind her treatment that captured everyone's hearts. The image of little Amara trying to pay for her mother's care with toys had become legendary among the staff, and the transformation they witnessed in Dr. Bennett had inspired them all. "I've been working here for 15 years, Nurse Patricia confided to her colleague during their lunch break, "and I've never seen Harrison so happy. It's like watching someone wake up from a long sleep." The change was obvious to everyone. The man who used to walk through the halls with clinical detachment now stopped to chat with patients, remembered personal details about their lives, and had even been caught playing peekaboo with a crying baby in the pediatric wing. But the most significant change came when Harrison called a staff meeting to announce the expansion of the Hope Fund. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, standing before the assembled doctors, nurses and support staff, "6 months ago, a 7-year-old girl taught me something about the true value of healing. Today, I want to share with you how we're going to make sure no family faces what Kiana and Amara Johnson faced." He clicked to the first slide of his presentation, which showed a photo of Amara's toys arranged on the reception desk from that first day. This little girl was willing to give up everything she treasured to save her mother's life. "Her love reminded me why we all chose healthcare as our calling. It's not about profit margins or prestigious awards. It's about preserving families, protecting love, and ensuring that financial circumstances never determine whether someone lives or dies." The room was completely silent as Harrison continued. "Starting next month, Bennett Medical Center will reserve 20% of our treatment capacity for patients who cannot afford our services. We're not talking about charity cases or tax write-offs. We're talking about providing the same level of excellence to every patient who walks through our doors, regardless of their ability to pay." Dr. Sarah Martinez, the head of pediatric oncology, raised her hand. "Harrison, that's a beautiful sentiment, but the financial reality is that kind of program could cost millions annually." "You're right, Sarah. Which is why I'm personally committing $10 million as seed money for the program. Additionally, Mrs. Richardson has pledged $5 million, and we have commitments from 12 other families for substantial ongoing contributions." The room erupted in applause, but Harrison wasn't finished. "More importantly, this isn't just about money. It's about changing how we practice medicine. I want every doctor in this room to remember Amara Johnson when you see your next patient. I want you to remember that behind every case file is a family, a love story, a child who needs their parent to get better." After the meeting, Harrison found himself surrounded by colleagues who wanted to be part of the program. Dr. Williams approached him with tears in her eyes. "Harrison, I've watched you become a different person over these past months. A better person. This program will save lives, but more than that, it will save families. Patricia, none of this would have happened without you and the rest of the staff embracing Kiana and Amara the way you did. They felt loved here, and that was as important as any medicine we gave them." Meanwhile, in the children's area, Amara had become something of a celebrity among the younger patients. Her positive attitude and creative drawings had made her a favorite of kids dealing with their own medical challenges. "Amara, will you show Tommy how you draw the medicine soldiers?" asked 8-year-old Lisa, who was receiving treatment for leukemia. "Sure." Amara pulled out her crayons and began sketching. "See, the good soldiers are really tiny, but they're super strong. They go into your body and fight all the bad stuff. The bad stuff doesn't like it when the soldiers tickle them, so they go away." Tommy, a 6-year-old boy with a brain tumor, watched intently. "Do you think the soldiers will help me too?" "Of course they will. Dr. Harrison says the soldiers are really smart, and they know exactly where to go to help each kid. Plus, you have to tell them thank you every day so they know you appreciate their hard work." Dr. Bennett, who had been watching this interaction from the doorway, felt his heart swell with pride. Amara had naturally become a peer counselor, helping other children cope with their treatments through her innocent wisdom and unshakable optimism. That evening, as the three of them sat in their temporary apartment sharing dinner, Harrison brought up something that had been on his mind. "I've been thinking about our living situation," he said carefully, remembering Kiana's earlier words about making decisions together. "Oh? What about it?" Kiana asked, though her tone suggested she had been thinking about the same thing. "Well, your treatment will be finished in 2 more weeks, which means you won't need to stay close to the hospital anymore. I was wondering, how would you both feel about moving in with me? Permanently, I mean." Amara's face lit up like Christmas morning. "You mean live in your big house? With a pool and the library?" "You have a library?" Kiana asked, surprised. Harrison smiled sheepishly. "I may have forgotten to mention a few details about my house. But yes, there's a library and a pool and plenty of space for all of us. More importantly, there's room for Amara to have friends over, and space for you to study when you start your college classes." "Harrison, are you asking us to move in with you?" Or are you asking me to marry you? Kiana's directness caught him off guard, but he appreciated her honesty. I'm asking both actually. I know we haven't been together very long in traditional terms, but what we've been through together feels like a lifetime. I love you, Kiana. I love Amara. I want to make this official, permanent, forever. Kiana looked at her daughter, who was practically vibrating with excitement, then back at the man who had saved not just her life but given them both a future filled with possibilities. Yes, she said simply. Yes to all of it. As they celebrated with impromptu dancing around the living room, none of them could have imagined how their story would continue to inspire others. The Hope Fund would eventually help over 1,000 families, and Amara's story would be told in medical schools as an example of how healing extends far beyond clinical treatment. But in that moment, they were simply a family, dancing to music only they could hear, grateful for the love that had found them in the most unexpected place. 2 weeks later, Kiana rang the bell that signified the completion of her cancer treatment. The tradition at Bennett Medical Center was for patients to ring the large brass bell in the lobby when they finished their final session, and the entire staff gathered to celebrate with them. As the clear, beautiful sound echoed through the building, Harrison felt tears he hadn't expected streaming down his face. Watching the woman he loved ring that bell, knowing she was healthy and whole and going to be with them for decades to come, overwhelmed him with gratitude. Speech. Speech, called out Nurse Patricia, and soon the entire lobby was chanting for Kiana to say something. Kiana, who had always been shy about speaking in public, looked nervously at Harrison. He nodded encouragingly and stepped beside her, with Amara holding both their hands. 6 months ago, my daughter and I walked into this building feeling hopeless, Kiana began, her voice shaking slightly. I was dying, we had no money, and I thought I was going to leave my little girl alone in the world. She paused, composing herself as the crowd listened intently. But we didn't just receive medical treatment here. We received love, dignity, and hope. Dr. Bennett didn't just cure my cancer. He showed us what family could look like. This staff didn't just provide care. They provided a community that embraced us when we had nowhere else to turn. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Most importantly, this experience taught me that healing isn't just about medicine. It's about believing in tomorrow, having people who care about whether you get better, and knowing that your life has value beyond what you can pay for it. She turned to look at Harrison, her eyes shining with love and gratitude. Harrison, you saved my life in every way a person can be saved. You gave me back my health, you gave Amara a father, and you gave me a future I never dared to dream of. But more than that, you've shown both of us what it means to be truly loved. The applause was thunderous, but Harrison barely heard it. He was focused entirely on the woman beside him, amazed by her strength, her grace, and the way she could find the perfect words for moments like this. I love you too, he whispered in her ear as the crowd continued clapping. Later that evening, they celebrated at Harrison's house, which Kiana and Amara were seeing for the first time as their permanent home. The sprawling estate felt like a palace to them, but Harrison had made sure it felt warm and welcoming rather than intimidating. Mommy, look. My room has a reading corner and everything. Amara called from upstairs, where Harrison had arranged for a child decorator to create the perfect space for a 7-year-old girl. And this is your study, Harrison said, showing Kiana a beautiful room with built-in bookshelves, a large desk and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. For when you start your education classes next month. Kiana walked around the room in amazement, running her fingers along the expensive desk, the comfortable chair, the shelves just waiting to be filled with textbooks and teaching materials. Harrison, this is too much. This whole house, this life. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to wake up and find out it was all a dream. Then let me make it more real, Harrison said, dropping to one knee and pulling out a small velvet box. Kiana's hands flew to her mouth as she realized what was happening. Kiana Johnson, you and Amara have made me the happiest man alive. You've taught me what love really means, what family really means, and what it means to live for something bigger than yourself. Will you marry me? Yes. Kiana laughed through her tears. Yes, yes, of course, yes. The ring was beautiful but not ostentatious, a classic solitaire that caught the light beautifully but wouldn't interfere with her daily life as a teacher-to-be and mother. Did she say yes? Did she say yes? Amara came running into the room, having heard the commotion from upstairs. She said yes. Harrison scooped Amara up in his arms, spinning her around while Kiana laughed and cried at the same time. Does this mean you're going to be my real daddy now? Amara asked seriously. If you want me to be, sweetheart. I would be honored to be your daddy. I want you to be. I've been practicing writing Amara Bennett, and it looks really pretty. As the three of them sat together in their new living room that night, planning their wedding and their future, Harrison reflected on how dramatically his life had changed. 6 months ago, he had been successful but empty, wealthy but lonely. Now he was surrounded by love, purpose, and the kind of happiness he hadn't even known existed. "What are you thinking about?" Kiana asked, noticing his contemplative expression. "I'm thinking about how Amara saved all of us that day she walked into my clinic. She saved you by refusing to give up. She saved me by showing me what really matters in life. And in a way, she's going to save all the families we helped through the Hope Fund." "She is pretty amazing," Kiana agreed, watching Amara arrange her toys in their new home with the same careful attention she had shown that first day at the medical center. "We all are," Harrison said, pulling both his girls closer. "We're pretty amazing together." As they settled into their new life, none of them could have predicted the ripple effects their story would continue to have. But that night, surrounded by love and infinite possibility, they were content to simply be a family that had found each other against all odds. 6 months after Kiana's treatment ended, their lives had settled into a beautiful rhythm. Kiana was thriving in her accelerated education program, maintaining a perfect GPA while balancing her studies with wedding planning and adjusting to their new life. Amara had made friends at her new school and was flourishing academically, her natural intelligence finally given the resources it needed to shine. Harrison had thrown himself into expanding the Hope Fund, which had already helped 43 families receive life-saving treatments they couldn't afford. Each success story reminded him of that first day when Amara had laid her toys on his reception desk, and he kept a photo of those toys prominently displayed in his office as a reminder of what really mattered. "Harrison, there's someone here to see you," Christine announced one Tuesday morning. "She says her name is Rebecca Martinez and she has a story you need to hear." Harrison looked up to see a woman in her 30s holding the hand of a boy who looked about 5 years old. The child was clearly sick, his small frame thin and fragile, but his eyes held the same determined spark that Harrison remembered from Amara. "Dr. Bennett, my name is Rebecca Martinez and this is my son Miguel. We heard about your Hope Fund from another family you helped and—" She paused, her voice breaking slightly. "We need your help." Harrison knelt down to Miguel's level, just as he had with Amara months earlier. "I'm Miguel. What brings you to see me today?" Miguel reached into his small backpack and pulled out a collection of items. 3 action figures, a toy truck with one wheel missing, and a small worn baseball that had clearly been his prized possession. "My mama says I can't afford to get better," Miguel said with the matter-of-fact directness of a child. "But I brought my best toys to pay you. This baseball was my daddy's before he died and my action figures can fly and everything." Harrison felt the familiar tightness in his throat that always came when he encountered this kind of innocent love and sacrifice. The parallel to Amara's story was unmistakable, but each child's love was unique and precious. "Miguel, those are very special toys. But you know what? I think we can help you get better and you can keep your toys too. How does that sound?" The little boy's face lit up with the same hope Harrison had seen in Amara's eyes. "Really? You can fix me without taking my daddy's baseball? Really? But first, I want your mama to tell me what's going on, okay?" Rebecca explained that Miguel had been diagnosed with a rare form of childhood leukemia that required specialized treatment not available through their insurance. The estimated cost was beyond anything their family could manage, even with both parents working multiple jobs. "Mrs. Martinez, Miguel is going to receive the best possible care, and you're not going to worry about the cost. That's what the Hope Fund is for." As Harrison arranged for Miguel's treatment to begin immediately, he thought about how this moment connected to everything that had brought him to this point. Amara's courage had started a chain reaction of healing that was now touching families across the city. That evening at dinner, Harrison shared Miguel's story with his own family. "Oh, the poor little boy," Amara said, her face full of concern. "Can I draw him some pictures to make him feel better during his treatments?" "I think he would love that, sweetheart," Kiana said, stroking Amara's hair. "You remember how scared you were when I was getting better, don't you?" "Yeah, but Harrison made everything okay. And now we're a family and mommy is all better and we live in the big house with the pool." Amara paused thoughtfully. "Miguel will be okay too, right Harrison? We're going to do everything we can to make sure he gets better, just like your mommy did." Later, after Amara had gone to bed, Harrison and Kiana sat on their back patio, planning the details of their upcoming wedding. "I've been thinking about something," Kiana said, reviewing the guest list they had been working on. "I want to invite all the families from the Hope Fund to our wedding. They're part of our story now." Harrison looked at her with renewed amazement. Even on her wedding day she was thinking about others, about the community they had helped build. "That's a beautiful idea. It will be a celebration not just of our love, but of everything good that's come from it. I also want to do something else, Kiana continued. I want to start a support group for families going through treatment. Not just medical support but emotional support. Someone to talk to who understands what it's like to be scared and overwhelmed and trying to stay strong for your children. Kiana, that's brilliant. You would be perfect for something like that. I keep thinking about how isolated I felt before we met you. How much easier it would have been if I had known there were other families going through the same thing, other mothers who understood what I was feeling. Harrison pulled her closer, marveling at how her experiences with suffering had made her more compassionate rather than bitter. Have I mentioned lately that I'm marrying the most amazing woman in the world? Only about 10 times today, Kiana laughed. But I don't mind hearing it again. As they sat there planning their future together, both of them felt the deep satisfaction that comes from building something meaningful. Their love story wasn't just about their own happiness. It had become a foundation for helping others find hope in their darkest moments. Harrison, Kiana said softly. When Amara brought her toys to your office that day, did you have any idea it would lead to all this? Harrison considered the question seriously. No, I had no idea. I thought I was just helping one little girl and her mother. I never imagined it would change my entire life, or that it would grow into something that could help so many other families. That's the beautiful thing about love, Kiana mused. You never know how far it will spread or whose lives it will touch. Amara's love for me touched you, your love for us created the Hope Fund, and now that fund is touching families we've never even met. And Miguel will grow up knowing that strangers cared enough to help him just like Amara did. Maybe someday he'll pass that kindness on to someone else who needs it. As they headed inside to check on their sleeping daughter, both of them felt the deep contentment of people whose lives had found their true purpose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new families to help, new opportunities to spread the kind of love that had brought them together. But tonight, they were simply grateful for the journey that had transformed them from strangers into a family, from despair into hope, from individual lives into something much larger and more beautiful than any of them could have created alone. 1 year later, on a beautiful spring morning, Harrison Benjamin Bennett and Kiana Marie Johnson were married in the gardens of Bennett Medical Center, surrounded by family, friends, and the many people whose lives had been touched by their story. Amara, now 8 years old and glowing with happiness, served as both flower girl and ring bearer, a role she had insisted on because, this wedding is about all three of us becoming a real family. The ceremony was officiated by Dr. Williams, who had become ordained specifically for this occasion, and the guest list included an extraordinary mixture of people: medical colleagues, families from the Hope Fund, Amara's classmates and teachers, and even some of Harrison's wealthy patients who had been inspired to contribute to the fund. Miguel Martinez, now healthy and cancer-free, was there with his parents, serving as one of Amara's special helpers. The two children had become close friends during Miguel's treatment, bonding over their shared experience of being the ones who had brought their families to Dr. Bennett's attention. Do you, Harrison, take Kiana to be your wife in sickness and in health, in wealth and in poverty, for as long as you both shall live? Dr. Williams asked. I do, Harrison said, his eyes never leaving Kiana's face. And I take Amara as my daughter, to love and protect and guide for all the days of my life. Do you, Kiana, take Harrison to be your husband, to build a life together based on love, compassion, and service to others? I do, Kiana replied, her voice strong and clear. And I promise to support him in all the good work that brought us together. And Amara, Dr. Williams said, turning to the little girl who was beaming with joy, do you take Harrison as your daddy and promise to keep bringing love and laughter to your new family? I do. I really, really do. Amara exclaimed, causing laughter to ripple through the gathered crowd. After the ceremony, as they mingled with their guests at the reception, Harrison was approached by Mrs. Richardson, the wealthy philanthropist who had become one of the Hope Fund's biggest supporters. Dr. Bennett, I wanted you to know that your story has inspired my entire family to think differently about philanthropy. We're not just writing checks anymore, we're getting involved, meeting the families, seeing the impact firsthand. That means everything to us, Mrs. Richardson. The personal connections are what make this work so meaningful. There's something else, she continued. My husband and I have decided to establish a foundation that will replicate your Hope Fund model in hospitals across the country. We want every child like Amara to have access to the kind of care you provided. Harrison felt his breath catch. Mrs. Richardson, that's incredible. Do you realize how many families that could help? We're thinking it could help thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. All because one little girl loved her mother enough to offer her toys as payment. As the evening continued, Harrison found himself constantly amazed by the ripple effects of their story. Teachers from Amara's school had started a program to help identify students whose families needed medical assistance. Several of his medical colleagues had implemented their own versions of the Hope Fund at their practices. Even some of Amara's 8-year-old classmates had organized toy drives for sick children, inspired by their friend's story. During the father-daughter dance, Amara looked up at Harrison with serious eyes. "Daddy Harrison, are you happy?" "I'm the happiest man who ever lived, sweetheart." "Are you happy?" "Super happy. But I want to tell you a secret." "What's that?" "I knew you were going to be my daddy from the very first day I met you. Even when Mommy said you were just the doctor, I knew you were going to be my family." Harrison felt tears spring to his eyes. "How did you know that?" "Because you looked at me the way daddies look at their little girls. Like I was the most important person in the whole world." "You are one of the most important people in my whole world, Amara. You and your mommy saved me just as much as I helped save you." Later that evening, after all the guests had gone home and Amara had fallen asleep in her flower girl dress, Harrison and Kiana sat in their garden, still in their wedding attire, reflecting on the day and the journey that had brought them here. "A year and a half ago, I thought my life was over," Kiana said softly. "I thought I was going to die and leave Amara alone in the world. I never could have imagined this." "A year and a half ago, I thought I had everything I wanted," Harrison replied. "I was successful, wealthy, respected. But I was completely empty inside. I had no idea what I was missing until a little girl taught me what real wealth looked like." "What do you think happens next?" Kiana asked, settling into her husband's arms. "Next, we keep building this beautiful life together. You finish your degree and become the incredible teacher I know you'll be. Amara grows up knowing she's loved and capable of anything. The Hope Fund helps more families. We probably have more children of our own someday." "More children?" Kiana asked with surprise and delight. "Would you like that?" "I know Amara has been asking for a baby brother or sister." "I would love that. I would love to see you with a baby, to watch you be a daddy from the very beginning." As they sat there planning their future, both of them felt the deep satisfaction of people whose lives had found their true purpose. Their love story had started with a desperate child sacrifice and had grown into something that was healing families across their community. How do stories like this inspire you to look for ways to help others? What small acts of kindness could you do today that might change someone's life? Share your thoughts and subscribe for more heartwarming stories that remind us of the power of compassion. The Hope Fund would eventually expand to 50 hospitals in 12 states, helping over 10,000 families receive life-saving treatment. Amara would grow up to become a pediatric nurse, inspired by her childhood experiences. Kiana would indeed become a beloved elementary school teacher, known for her ability to connect with children from difficult circumstances. But most importantly, they would remain a family built on love, gratitude, and the belief that every person deserves dignity, care, and hope, regardless of their circumstances. Their story would be told in medical schools and ethics classes as an example of healing that goes beyond medicine to touch the human heart. And it all started with a 7-year-old girl who loved her mother so much that she was willing to give up everything she treasured to save her life. Sometimes the greatest acts of love come in the smallest packages, and sometimes the most profound changes begin with the purest hearts.